Hello, 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 and welcome to the new normal from the Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Francis White, in bed, because this is where the closest chord is, and I always feel I'm running out of battery. I am today, now normally, it's 6 o'clock on Monday to Friday, but Cal Wilson is in Australia, and she is one of our very favourite Guilty Feminist co-hosts, and so I would like to bring her in. I will when we've got a quorum. Oh, we've got a very quick quorum for this. So I'm going to see if I can bring her in. Cal will save 4, 3, 2, 1. Is she there? Is Cal Wilson there? Oh, we're connecting. Hey, there she is. Don't you look fabulous? I've just finished my personal training, so I've not got even moisturizer on. My face is like sandpaper, honestly.
I just got out of my exercise gear and I went for a run about 12 hours ago. So I just run.
It's 9 o'clock there.
Yes.
It's 9 o'clock so on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Will the regular crowd shuffle in?
I hope so, because there's an old man sitting next to me making love to his tonic and gin, which is alarming and not something he should do.
I mean, aren't there laws against that?
I mean, these days you can't get away with doing that to an alcohol.
No.
That's it.
Also, it's a bit of a lazy rhyme there, Billy Joel, because we all know it's gin and tonic. Nobody has ever in the history of the world called it a tonic and gin.
Unless an old man sitting next to me, he's getting quite histrionic, sipping his gin and tonic. Not quite as poetic.
I think some other kind of drink that ends with gin. Making love to his... your internet's buffering there. Are you all right?
Yeah.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes. Cal, someone's suggesting that you've outdone me on the glasses front, because I normally get great glasses. Where did you get glasses? The answer is always Trelise Cooper. And you have outdone me on the glasses. Trelise Cooper sent me like a dozen pair of glasses because my glasses fell apart, and I had I've answered that question so many times on the internet and worn them in so many press shots. They sent me like a dozen pair of different glasses.
So have you all made up, or are you rationing yourself? Like, is it going to be one every 6 months or one every 2 years?
Well, what I wanted to do was switch them around, because they were like, they go different outfits, but at the moment I'm still in lockdown, so I haven't changed them up that much, because these are my classics. And I also have a pair of red square ones, which I love, which I wear a lot now too. But I haven't delved too much further in. I was going to do, like, at some point, like a photo shoot with them, and then put a different one each day up saying, where'd you get those glasses, Trelise Cooper? But the news has turned in a way that I feel that right now anything like that would be so tone deaf as to be a drastic misreading of the room.
Yeah. Did you see Rachel Griffiths put a post up about how great it was to have a manicure? There was a really weird post where she said something. There are people dying. I know it's terrible, but gosh, it's much easier to face if you've got nice nails. Like, it was a really such an unbelievable post that immediately was taken down. But I was like, I'm just not.
I've seen some spectacularly mistoned. I mean, I think as a real rule of thumb, no thirst trap pictures that combine with any social issues.
Yeah.
But especially if you are white, Black Lives Matter. You do not put up any kind of... I've seen some white men who've put up some pictures of themselves that are really... It's something between a Black Lives Matter post and a Grindr profile. And I'm like, no. And friends of mine, we've shared with each other and got, how could you possibly... What kind of self-awareness? But I've also seen, I have to say, white women treating... Black Lives Matter rally as some kind of fashion shoot, where they're taking glamorous pictures of themselves. I know, please, it's embarrassing enough to be white as it is this week. Can you stop? I mean, no one who cares about my white guilt, my white tears, any of those things. This is not me centering myself. This is me saying all white people should feel ashamed this week, because none of us did enough. I'm not saying, speaking for every white person, maybe some white people have devoted their life, and I'm sure they have, and I'm not speaking for them, but I'm speaking for myself and pretty much every other white person. Whatever you did, clearly it wasn't enough. And this is not the time for you to be taking centre stage. There's no excuse for a hot selfie this week from a white person.
No, none.
No
I
excuse.
can't think of a. I don't even want to imagine what the good reason
It
would be.
doesn't, and nothing about your nails, your hair, you know.
Yeah.
But those posts get screenshot and then sent around, and then they get deleted very quickly. But anyway, how are you? I feel like we should not our feelings as allies, which we will talk about offline, because we do need a strategy, Cal.
Yeah,
We do need a big old strategy.
we do.
But I want to do that very thoughtfully about how the Guilty Feminist is going to move forward. And I'm worried that a lot of this allyship is fireworks for 1 week, and then as Yasmin Abdel-Majid said in her brilliant article for Time magazine, I'll still be black when it's not trending anymore.
Yeah.
When it stops trending. And I was like, oh God, this is the real danger. So I think we need a strategy. You need a strategy, I need a strategy, and we need a Guilty Feminist strategy. It's your very important part of the Guilty Feminist. And I know that you've had Black Lives Matter Indigenous protests this weekend. How have those gone?
They seem to have gone well. They were the one in New South Wales was banned as being illegal.
Because
I'm not
of COVID.
sure because of COVID, yeah. And then it got overturned, but they were having the protest anyway. And I think they all went well, and lots of people turned up. And it does feel a little bit like that a bunch of white people have woken up a bit this week and gone, oh shit. Like I know I've gone, oh, I haven't done enough at all. And I've,
And I'm not doing that terrible thing of going, I've no idea. I mean, obviously, the Guilty Feminist, we've talked about these things a lot on the Guilty Feminist, and we have, we really, have had the privilege and the honour of some extraordinary black women on the podcast over the years, and also brown women telling different stories. I know this week it is not to upstage, we must not upstage blackness, but we have had all sorts of women telling different stories, and regular co-hosts who are black, and so it is not to say I'm going, oh my goodness, I didn't know black people, that response is kind of infuriating. But have I done enough? I just think obviously not, because of the pain radiating off my black friends, and I just obviously not. And so what is our strategy from here on in is the only interesting question now. Is not time for us to be like it's not time for us to be burdening black people with our white guilt or our white apologies, which is not useful actually. Our strategy is useful, our work is useful, our feelings of guilt are not. But our admissions that we haven't done enough, I think, are important. Someone saying a lot of my awareness about blackness came from listening to the Guilty Feminist podcast. Thank you for what you're doing. But that's so wonderful, and I have to say that's all the black women that were invited on, and very much not me. So thank you to all of the amazing black women who've come on and contributed to the podcast. And it's a privilege to have that platform and share it with those voices, frankly, those really amazing voices. So given you and I are going to do a strategy offline for what we're going to do, how are you, Cal?
I don't want to come out yet. I don't want to come out of lockdown yet.
Have you got Stockholm syndrome? That's what I call it.
I have. I think I like. It's weird. Like one of my friends had real trouble as we went into lockdown, and like she's in the same industry, and she felt really overwhelmed by going into lockdown, and I didn't. But now that things are starting to open up again, I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm ready. I don't think I'm ready to go back to the world.
No. Yeah, I would have thought at the top. Hold on, I'm just going to pause this for a second to put this onto 4G. Can you busk while I'm gone? Just do something fun.
All right. A training company called Halt C, and I'm very excited about them. and I look like the old man from
Oh.
Up. Yeah, there you go. I bust. Waiting for you to
Do not look like the old man from Up in any way, shape, or form. Although I now do see you do have his glasses. Yeah, you do. You do have his glasses. Yeah. Yeah, you do look a bit like the old man from Up now. You've said it. I mean, to be fair, you've had to pull a quite extreme face to get
Yeah,
there.
what I like about these glasses is I don't have
I
to
don't
worry.
think you're going to get mistaken for him in the street. That's what I don't think. They are fabulous glasses.
This lovely fictional man.
Do you feel it's safe to come out of lockdown? Do you think they're letting you out at the right time?
I think we have to come out of lockdown, but I'm worried that we'll burst out of lockdown and there'll be lots of like too much contact, and then we're going to get the second wave. But I'm also aware that I do have Eeyore tendencies, so we might be fine. But I'm still like, well, I have a couple of people close to me who are quite vulnerable health wise, and so I'm really aware of their health feeling nervous for them and feeling anxious for them. Yeah, and I just sort of feel, I feel like I'm waiting for oh, it turns out it wasn't fixed. Like, that's kind of what I'm waiting for. But I do tend to catastrophize.
I am an optimist, but I do not feel we should come out of lockdown at all. And they're sort of easing it. And I'm like, why though? We've had over 40,000 deaths from COVID, and there's only 2 countries in the world that have had that. We're one of them.
Yeah.
And last week in the UK, it was like the deaths were, for other European countries, were as low as 2, but they were all under 100. And we had over 300 deaths. And like each, it sounds like these are all stats, but these are all, whether you're in a country that had 2 deaths, to those people, to those families, that's horrifyingly tragic. So I don't want to sort of say the numbers as if they're meaningless, but at all. And I attach humanity to all of those. But over 300, when every other European country seems to have got it down to under 100. That's if I've read the stats right and if the article I saw was correct. And but that seems to be the accepted received wisdom. That doesn't seem. Oh, there's somebody saying that the UK has more deaths than the whole of the EU combined. Yes, lockdown is releasing soon, doesn't feel good. So yeah, that's my concern. But you've flattened your curve, have you? You think it's the right time?
Like, we seem to have done really well. Like, there were a few slip-ups early on with a cruise ship docking with a number of cases on board, and the New South Wales health whatevers didn't get onto it quickly enough to stop people.
Why didn't they isolate them?
I don't know. I think maybe it was still at that stage of like, oh, it's nothing too bad. It'll be just like the flu. That's sort of, I feel like it took, like, I feel like New Zealand did the right thing where they were just like instantly, that's it, everything's shutting down now, stay home, come home, don't ever go out again, kind of thing. And
so Jacinda Ardern a better leader than other leaders again?
I think she might be. I think what I noticed about her throughout this whole thing is the way she keeps talking about kindness and empathy. So she keeps
wouldn't that be refreshing for your leader to talk about kindness and empathy? Tom watches lots of old movies because he has a podcast called Best Pick, where they watch and review and research Best Picture winners. So he's always watching like every film from 1937 or something like that. Every important film from 1937 is, so often there's that sort of noise coming. I just thought if you could hear the noise of a very, very old film coming from the other room. You couldn't. That's why I shut the door, because I thought. So
yes, just talking about kindness and empathy, and like I was watching her briefings just for comfort, like, because I found her so completely soothing in a way that. And what I really loved about her is that when someone would ask a question and she didn't know the answer, she'd go, "I don't know, I'll find out." Like, she didn't do any of the like, just didn't try and get out of it. It was just like, well, I'll get someone who knows that answer to tell me what that answer is, but I don't have it right now. Like, just
so much better.
So much better.
There's so much status in saying I don't know. But saying I don't know in a way of, oh well, I need to find that out though. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
And there's one person can't know everything. That's why you have a big staff and you have experts and you have different ministers for different things. Makes so much sense. Yeah, Lizzie there says, so proud to be in New Zealand. Yes, I'm sure you are. All the Australians and the Brits are going, oh my God, this is
Yeah,
embarrassing. This is a
it's quite,
terrible time.
it feels quite weird now, obviously, because in our industry, our whole life is about being in front of people at once in a confined space. So that seems so far away to get back to. But like friends in New Zealand have been posting that they've had their first comedy gigs back, and there was a gig
Ah,
in Melbourne as well. And I'm like, oh, that sounds wonderful, but at the same time, how can that be possible? Like, I still can't. I just can't imagine being in a full room again.
and will people come to it? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Pure Light says, did you see Jacinda talk about the Easter Bunny? And it was really great. She talked about how the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny were classed as essential workers, and so they would, of course, not be having
Restricted.
the same. But she also
But
said
yeah,
that the Easter Bunny has a family of her own, and so if there are no Easter eggs at your house this weekend, it's because the Easter Bunny has just been really flat out. So she gave a really great out to parents who weren't able to
get any Easter eggs.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah, they could show the Prime Minister saying, look, there might be a hold up on your eggs. But COVID is that, but we're not restricting the Easter Bunny's movement.
No.
Did she say the Easter Bunny was a she? I didn't realise that.
I've just said that as a she because I said the Easter Bunny was a she because I was like, why should the Easter Bunny be a he? But I got
wow. The Easter Bunny was a woman all along.
Yeah,
this is a scoop. This is a guilty from the scoop.
My joke was that she puts all the eggs in one basket and she loves chocolate, so of course she's a woman. So I got into trouble though when Digby was about 6 because we'd always talk about the Easter Bunny as a she, and then he was like, the kid across the road, it says the Easter Bunny is a he. How come we've got a she Easter Bunny? And I was like, why do you reckon it is? And he goes, I reckon there's so much chocolate, there's a whole family of Easter Bunnies. And I was like, I think you're right.
Very good, very strong work. Very strong work. This is you have so many great stories about magical childhood characters and your son. I mean, this is a stock in trade for you. You've got a brilliant Santa story as well.
Yes, yeah, and a goat,
which you can watch if you see Cal Wilson's stand-up special.
Right.
Oh, someone said Sheester Bunny. Sheester Bunny.
Bunny, that is great.
The Sheester Bunny. I like that. I like that a lot. So, are you? Do you have any new I'm a Feminist butts that have come out of the lockdown?
All right. I'm a feminist, but the upside of this whole thing is I haven't dried the back of my hair for 9 weeks. Only, I got out of the shower moments ago. Look at that though, gone grey.
Wow.
Grey.
When will your hairdressers open?
They're already open, but I want to see how long I can last without going back. And then I think I might go platinum blonde just for a change.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. I did it when I was 30, so I might as well do it when I'm 50.
I want to do it. I want to do blonde. I want to do like a Jennifer Aniston caramel color blonde. I don't think it's going to suit my face shape, my face, my skin tone, or my anything. But I want to try it once. I don't know. It's probably going to wreck my hair though. I don't know.
Why don't you get a nice wig and try it
out? Yeah, I could do that. Hairdressers never want to do it to me because they're like, you have to bleach your hair so much to do it because your hair's so dark. So I suspect I probably shouldn't, but at some point I might throw caution to the wind and think you only live once, you might as well wreck your hair.
I'm a feminist, but I'm a feminist, but I secretly hope that everyone else has been eating as much as I have, because I do not fit some of my clothes anymore.
I can absolutely guarantee you that have. That goes without saying. Have you had any ways of coping with being in isolation for so long and now coming out of it? Because you're ahead of us in terms of coming out of it. Like you were saying to me, you had, when you were allowed to have a few friends over for the first time, you had a party for
it was Digby's birthday, and so we had 5 relatives over. We had his cousins and his aunt and his grandparents. So it was only 5 people, but it was really weird having other people in our house after so long of not having anyone in the house except for us, and also us spending all of our days and evenings together. And suddenly there were 5 other people, and there was like 5 other people's worth of noise in the house, and it was so lovely to see them. And then when they left, I was like, oh my God, just I felt it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming, just the bombardment of sort of stimulus and noise, and yeah, it was really, I was like, I also know how, like, we're
so quick to adapt, aren't we?
Yeah, we have to train
like when it was taken away, we were like, how will we live without it? And then it's sort of 8 weeks later, we're like, we cannot have that now. And it's an overload of the senses, and it's just bizarre. I'm so sorry. I basically, Minogue has said 2 cases, not quoting my username, inducing panic in the cis since 1995. Sure, but I can't say that because I don't own that. So I'm not going to say it. It's for you to say. I guess you can give me permission to say it if we're together in a room, and that's what you want me to call you, but I can't because I don't own it. And that's, I think, kind of right. Does that make sense? Or am I wrong? I don't feel I own it, but I will call you Minogue if that's okay. I don't, I mean, that doesn't call, I often say somebody though, I often say somebody saying, if I can't see if the name is sort of SJ Sunshine or something, I will generally say, somebody saying, if the name is Sarah, I'll say they've clearly given their own name. So that is not uncommon for me, but it also doesn't feel very owned by me. And so I know, but also when this goes on YouTube, all of the comments go away.
Oh,
so then so that comment will disappear, so they won't be able to see what I'm talking about, and it will just be then a liftable clip of me using what is widely known as a slur. So Minogue, I love you, and thank you for saying I'm only teasing. Anyway,
so where are you at with lockdown? Are you allowed to have people over, or what is yours?
We're allowed to have 5 people over as long as it's outside, like in a garden, but we have to stand 2 meters away. I don't have a garden, but we've got like a little terrace. But if 5 people were on my terrace, they would not be able to stand 2 meters away from each other. So we'd all have to stand in a corner. 4 people could stand in a corner of the terrace, and then we would have to just stand and shout, I suppose, or I don't know. So for me, I'm like, I have had 2 people on the terrace. Somebody wanted to drop off a plant for me, and so she and a friend who are isolating together came up with masks on, and then we all sat outside 2 meters apart from each other, and Tom sat inside, but he could see out the door. But it's not really fun. I mean, and it was fun to see them, but it's not really that sort of, we can all have a few drinks and a few laughs in the same way for a very extended period of time.
It's so weird. Also, like I love to hug my friends, and so it's really weird seeing someone and not touching them. Like, I've been going for sort of socially distanced walks with a friend, and like when I see her, usually like we are all over each other, like she's such a dear friend, but then when you're there and you're apart, it feels like you've had a fight, or it feels like you're having an affair no one must know about. Like, so you're like, oh, I'm itching to touch you, but I can't touch you. Like, it's such a weird dynamic.
That's so true.
Yeah,
that's so true. My friend was saying that she was, hold on, I'm just getting rid of that. We've got some trolls on today. My friend went on a date with her boyfriend, and she said it was like being a Jane Austen hero and taking a turn around the park, but sort of in public and not being able to touch, and all of that. It feels very romantic, and other people are sorry, that sometimes the trolls find you.
right.
They just search for anything that says feminist. And yeah, sometimes just sometimes if you are, it's basically what I call the hot priest effect. If you
Yeah, right.
can't have sex with somebody, if you're not allowed to, if it's illegal, it becomes compelling. And the same as like hugging your friends, and it creates this odd intimacy, because in no other context would I see you and not like hug you
Yeah.
or come up to you or like be talking like really animatedly.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
as
yeah.
soon as you stand back, it feels like exactly that, like you're either resisting something or you're fighting, and those social distances are not normal to us. Normally they mean something. So I'm going to call it the hot priest effect.
Um, the other thing, what was it? I just had another salient point to add to that. It's gone from me. How useful. That's what's happening to my brain. The other thing that's happening to me is my big achievement over lockdown has been watching 19 seasons of Survivor. So
Yeah,
that's our family thing. Is it like it's great to watch with my son because we can have conversations about like sexism or racism and different situations. But watching the older series and watching them do challenges where they all have to spit water into a bucket, or they like
right.
the hygiene stuff that just now looks so wrong. Even like when you watch a TV show and someone kisses someone else and walks in their house, I'm like, oh, that's a bit much. Like, oh, too.
I 100% hear that. Yeah, I wonder when we'll go back to that. I do wonder when we'll go back to that. Do you foresee any habits from lockdown going forward, like taking them into the new life, whatever that's going to be for us?
Um, I feel like when I go for it, like I've been going for runs as my exercise, and I've been making sure that I've said hello to everybody. Like even though we're distant, like I make eye contact and I say hello, and I hope that's something that we keep of like just that little bit of like I'm starting to recognize people on the run, like people obviously do
Ah,
along the track, at similar times of day. So I'm hoping there's that connection that stays rather than the don't make eye contact with
mm.
people, and the kind of more like
I don't know how
yeah,
that's going to go in London, I'll be honest with you.
yeah. Well, I wasn't sure how it was going to go in Melbourne either. But the whole thing of like when you talk to someone in a shop that you actually have a conversation with them that's not about the weather. Like, how are you?
Yeah.
How are you going, or how have you found it? Have you been busy, or when did you open again, or how are you finding it?
We're asking more for each other's mental health now, I think.
Yeah,
I hope that continues.
yeah. After the earthquakes in Christchurch, which is my hometown, I was there when there was an earthquake at the end of the year that the big one happened. So uh, I went out with my mum to the supermarket the next day, and they were limiting numbers of people that could go inside just in case there were, more aftershocks or whatever. But everybody in the queue was talking to each other and going, "You all right? How's your family? Where were you when it?" Like there was that real feeling of concern and camaraderie that I hope that we get to do as well. That you just kind of see each other as human more than like, oh, God, why are you taking so long in the aisle with your? Oh, I just want to get some wheat bix. Like that
Hmm.
more.
I absolutely hear that. Um, I have been astounded by the patience of Londoners, and I really hope that we've started to see each other as human beings more and be more, and also mindful of how convenient everything is and how privileged we are. On that front, have all the shops opened up again in Melbourne, or because I worry our high street's going to be half empty because loads of
Um,
people can't afford to reopen?
yeah, I haven't been out much, so I know last time I went to the shopping centre, there were more shops open, like the pajama shops and the clothing shops that started to reopen. And when I went to a bookshop, and they were like, "Oh, the shoe shop was like letting people in like it was a nightclub, like there was a queue right down the
Mm.
center of the shopping center." And I was like, "Oh, I just can't imagine wanting to put my foot in a shoe that someone else might have had their foot in at the moment." So like, oh, the clothing shops have opened, but I don't want to try anything on, and I don't like.
Interesting.
Um,
You've still got kind of fear, and to be fair, until there's a vaccine, that's not a bad
yeah.
instinct. People from New Zealand who are watching this, because you're right out of lockdown now, you've been saying, um, have you seen only half or half the businesses on the high street open, um, or have you have you found that everyone has found a way to reopen? I think you might have better stimulus packages than we do, but my concern is that lots of businesses are just never going to be able to open again because they couldn't afford to pay the rent during that time. And I'm dreading that in London. I'm dreading the sad time when, you know, half the shops are boarded up and people are sort of, you know, not spending anything because they lost their jobs and that kind of thing. I think that's going to be so sad, and we're going to have to find ways of, you know, and also before the comedy clubs are open again, because presumably you can't have a theatre open now.
You can have a theatre open, but it's got to have there's a maximum number of people. So, like, I don't know if you remember the Athenaeum in Melbourne. So it's a reasonably big theatre, and I think their maximum they're allowed would be 50. So in a theatre that's got hundreds of seats that you'd like be basically able to have one person per row. So it's not yet viable, I don't think, for much to be open. I know that in New Zealand, Ursula Carlson was talking about doing a gig the other day, and the booking instructions were if you were in your bubble. So New Zealand talks a lot about the bubble, that the people that you have in your bubble are the people that you've been quarantining with or in lockdown with, that you can book tickets in the number of your bubble, and then there'll be a gap between you and the next bubble. So there'll be empty spaces between, but you could have like 6 people there and 5 people over there.
Right.
But it's
so
still,
they won't operate exactly like an audience normally does, but you can put a show on.
Yeah.
And that's something.
Yeah. Pure Light, who was saying that they're from Canterbury, it really depends on the business. Everyone is doing so well supporting local, though New Zealand supported tourism so well during the long weekend. Oh, that's nice. That's that's something else here that I wonder, like with tourism, because you've already got the places that are impacted by the bushfires already, but then you've got this whole thing of like, you know, when will the states reopen and when you'll be able to travel, and it's I can't imagine what it looks like yet.
Somebody says in New Zealand most places are reopening, but the government gave huge wage subsidies, so the hard times may still be coming for some of our businesses. So someone else was saying there's going to be major closures later, that people have sort of come back, but whether or not they're going to be able to sustain it. Oh
yeah, it feels weirdly though, like I had this kind of feeling like I've always had faith that I chose the right job. Like then this whole pandemic made me go, for the first time in 30 years, it made me go, oh, should I really have been doing this? And then I kind of went, I feel like I've always, you know, had the self-doubt of like, you know, what if my career never goes anywhere, or, you know, what if it's all downhill from here? And kind of the pandemic has made me go, well, if the worst happens, it happens. Like this, it's given me a different perspective on what I view success as, I think, of like going, oh, well, it could all just collapse in a moment. So there's no point.
Exactly. There is no safe industry right now. Yeah. There's nothing safe. There really isn't. So I think whatever you do, I feel pleased. I've spent the better, you know, part of my career doing something that I really wanted to do. And that's, I think, Becky's saying here, the beauticians are fully booked. I was right. The beauticians are now the key workers. They'll be working around the clock, I'm telling you. But I just feel like it just shows you how fragile everything is. So while you can be doing the thing you care about, do the thing you care about. I think the only shift that I would make would be not to stop doing comedy, because I think entertaining spaces people are drawn to more and learn more from, but maybe to go into, to make a bigger part of my career activism as opposed to entertainment and my own, like worrying about my own career. But of course, the fact that I don't draw a salary from any of the organizations I work with, I make my own living, is actually very useful. So I think, I don't know. I think we just have to see how the next 2 years pans out, and what it brings, and how the new models for the working world are. How do you think it might change intimacy, Cal? Like in terms of dating and people hooking up and things like that?
I am so unqualified to answer that, I feel, having been with my husband for 17 years. I don't know. I did have a friend tell me that a friend of theirs was going out and hooking up on Tinder and then got the coronavirus and then had to call a whole lot of people and tell them.
Of course, of course. I can't
Yeah.
believe people are still hooking up during this.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know whether I can't answer that. I have no idea what it looks like. I'm still getting over Tinder. Like I'm still fascinated by that as a concept because it wasn't around. Like
No.
I remember being surprised when we went to a wedding and the celebrant talked about how the couple had met online, and both me and Chris were like, "Gosh, they're admitting that." Like that's how. Like
it used to be when that first happened, when it was sort of dating websites. People were embarrassed to say they'd met online, and now that's just so totally normal.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it has so many people meet now. But it kind of makes sense to me because it's the biggest thing in your life who you're with, and we used to leave it just to going to a party and hoping to meet the right person, and that to me is like going to a party and going, anyone got a job?
Yeah.
Now, is this house for sale? It's really nice, but I don't know any houses for sale. I don't know any flat.
Does anyone like to play board games? Does anyone like to play board games? Does anyone
That's how it used to be. It used to be, and now you find everything online. You compare everything online. If you want to buy a house, you don't want to go to one estate agent. You want to look at like everything available in the area you want to be in, and you can do that quickly online. I would suggest the same for meeting somebody that is desirable to you. Somebody says here, my best friend and husband met on Tinder is a badge of pride, getting to be a success story. Indeed. I think, do you know what I think is going to go out though, Cal?
What?
Is the swipe right, bang them and ghost them as soon as possible. I think that's over. I just think just shagging a bunch of strangers and moving on. I just don't think doesn't sit with this time, which is about connection and empathy and being careful about who you let into your world, your home, your body. I think we're coming into a different age. But my theory is it might polarize, that some people are going to go into the roaring 20s where it's going to be massive parties and drugs and because there was no money in the 20s either because of the First World War and the Spanish flu, but they just did it on a budget, and there was a lot going on a budget then, but there was extreme decadence. So Minogue says fuck boys, still disagree. I sure, but I hear you. Fuck boys will be fuck boys. That's a good t-shirt slogan. Oh, by the way, you will get a t-shirt today based on something you've said.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a I know you love a t-shirt. In fact, fuck boyo. I had my t-shirt on for that one day. I should have put that on today. I should have put my fuck boyo t-shirt on. Something you say will be picked up by the merch store. They will then make an on-demand t-shirt that will say your slogan plus Cal Wilson plus the new normal plus stay home, and it will be only printed on demand, so there's no waste, and it's a locally sourced, ethically traceable fabric as well.
Amazing.
So
now I want to tell you this before I forget, because I meant to say it before. Steve Ali's article in the GQ about how it all has saved me so many times.
Like, oh my God.
I just read it. Like I go back and read it again when I'm feeling fluttery and kind of like, the world is out of control. But just to go back and read that piece and go, oh yeah, that's out of control. But yeah, we take our moments, we take our joy from the small moments of laughter and connection. I've recommended it to so many people, and I do just go back to it because it's just the perfect thing to read. Like, it's like he's talking to us from the future. Like,
kind of, it's very beautiful. He also did an amazing monologue on Grown Up Land, the BBC Sons. It's the lockdown special about refugees knowing. I hope it gives people more compassion for refugees, because now they see things can happen to you. This change was inflicted upon you. You did not want it. And can you imagine going through this, except you can't stay in your home? It's the opposite of stay in your home. it's get out of your home, get on the road with your family, and you've got to, whatever you do, you've got to keep moving, and no other country will take you. Now I think people are going to get that a bit more. Some people will get that a bit more and go, oh yeah, because nothing like this has happened to us for so long in our lifetimes that I think we've kind of thought we've just been in a bubble, a blip, a historical and geographical blip. So yeah, so I'm so happy that you feel that way about that article. And are there any parts of it especially that you remember?
The bit about how you can't control what's happening, so you have to take the little things like the connection and laughing together. That was just that, yeah, just so great and so reassuring of just kind of going, yeah, well, you can't do anything, but just take what you can in these moments. Yeah, and I've found that when I've tried to look ahead too far, I just feel so rudderless and confused and uncertain that it's just better to not try and, because I can't make sense of the future, because who knows, and everything changes so quickly from week to week to week that who knows what we'll be doing in October. Like, there's no point in even trying to look a year ahead, because how can we predict what it is? Because we don't know. Yeah, we don't know what next week looks like.
Yeah, that's what he says. Just plan for the day and shop for the week, and you just drop all these sort of ideas of where you'll be in 5 years' time, because the only thing you know is you don't know where you'll be in 5 years' time. So I think it's making us be more in the now and be grateful more for what we have. And that I love that part of the article where he says, I'm really good at this. I'm really good at changing and adapting and going, oh, well, all the parameters have shifted again. Now I have to work out how to live in this world, because I've done this so many times before. But he says, but so are you. You're also really good at adapting. Look, you've already adapted. You're not doing the same things you were a few weeks ago. You've totally changed. You're homeschooling your kids now, or you're working out how to cook with what's local, and etc. and so forth. This is what you're doing. You are adapting, and you're finding joy in some of those things. You're thinking, oh my god, it's nice to spend time with more time with my kids. All right, it's nice to get to know the person at the local shop, and and that's what we're all good at silver linings.
Yeah. Like I have, like it's like my all of my work for this year disappeared in one afternoon, basically. But I've really loved, like, so the Melbourne Comedy Festival got cancelled, which was the only thing that could happen. And so there was a start of 1 week where it was going ahead, and then it just wasn't. And so I'd come home from being away for about a month, because I'd been away with you on the Guilty Feminist tour in New Zealand and Adelaide and Brisbane. And then I came home, and I was expecting to be out every night for a month doing the festival, and it's exhausting and it's great and it's tiring and it's wonderful and it's just shattered. Like, it's so exhausting. And then all of a sudden I was at home and I wasn't going out anywhere, but I was doing an Instagram live every night. So I'd talk to one of my friends every night on Instagram live, because I just felt like I want to connect with people and for other people to maybe just feel like they're having a chat with a friend sort of thing. But it was so nice to be at home with my family. Like, it was just it was so nice to be in this little pod of the three of us and not have to go to school, like, just, we could totally hibernate together. And it made me realize how much I travel, or how much I have traveled in my job, and how, how I'm home for a week, but then I'm away for 2 nights and then I'm back. And it was like, oh no, I'm just home now. And it was, for all of the massive uncertainty and the fear about work and all that kind of stuff, it was just really
nice to stop.
Fine, yeah.
I found that as well. I'm sort of shocked at what I was asking my body to do, and I think it's now socially acceptable to go, how you coping, how are you dealing with it, how are you, and but last year, if somebody had said on a conference call, I'm not coping, everyone would have been like, oh, why are you not coping? But last year my life was so frenetic, the pace we were living at, and it was, of course we were not well, of course we were not right. I hope that continues, but I am so glad we got to do the tour we did in February, because it was so special, and I had such a good time on that tour.
Yeah, it was really special. And it was so, we got to we had fantastic women on as guests, and it was just so wonderful. It was a lovely send off. Like, it was for me anyway, like they were such lovely gigs, and I felt really filled and sustained by them, and such a great time. I have to imagine that will happen again. Like, that we'll go back to.
That night we did the show with Julia Gillard was so amazing.
It really was.
And the Enmore Theatre in Sydney, it was genuinely thrilling, and I am so happy that we got to do that. And I feel so lucky. I'm meant to be on tour around the UK at the moment, some really, really big venues. I think we're meant to be in Newcastle tonight. People keep posting their tickets and saying we should be doing this tonight, and I'm so sad not to be able to go to all those places, but we will again. And I think possibly what we've all learned from this, I'll never say it's worth it, because of I'm not saying that at all, because there are so many deaths from COVID and other associated deaths as people can't be treated properly, and the the horror show that's brought on the Black Lives Matter movement, the consistent brutalization of people. I mean, it's so awful. But I'm hoping, again, human beings are programmed to look for silver linings. That's how we survive and go forward and innovate. I'm hoping that all of this might lead to a change in our consciousness, even if it's only a sort of chunky minority of people who go, okay, things have got to change.
Yeah. And to your point of saying, like last year, if you'd said I'm not coping, you've got to be horrified. I hope we do keep that, or even just the humanizing of the people that you work with. Like, I did a corporate gig on Zoom for the first time, which was a very strange thing to do. But the guy that hired me, we were chatting, and he was saying, our bosses are quite formal, but because we've been having these calls from home, and she's got her kids at home, like we've had meetings where her kid's been sitting on her knee, and I'm seeing a whole different side to her that I haven't seen before. And I thought it was so interesting that, like you're kind of we're getting a more human view of the people that we interact with, and that it's okay if you need to, I can't imagine a year ago that no one would comment if you had a child on your lap while you were trying to do a work meeting, but now it's just like, oh, well, that's what you have to do the job, so it's fine.
I'm hoping so. Do you have a feminist or activist cause that we can get behind today? Is there anything you'd like us to contribute to, sign, get involved with, amplify?
Because of the whole Black Lives Matter thing this week and Indigenous Lives Matter here, I couldn't go to the protest today, but I've donated to a couple of organisations. There's an organisation called Deborah, which is an organisation that helps Aboriginal women in all aspects, but specifically Aboriginal people who've been experiencing domestic violence, and they're based in Victoria. And I've donated to a couple of Indigenous Literacy Foundation and the Aboriginal Literacy Foundation, so two similar names but two different organisations. And there's a list in my bio on Instagram. There's a list of resources for anti-racism resources for here in Australia, done by the Victorian Women's Trust. So I felt like I've got to do something. I've got to start doing something. And so, like, making a donation is something I can do, but also following more Indigenous voices. There's a really great organisation called Black Rainbow, which is for LGBTQI plus Indigenous youth here in Australia. And the guy that runs that is really lovely. So for me, it's kind of what I'm doing at the moment is just trying to breed stuff and ingest stuff and be more aware and try and step up.
Do you mind making some stories of those and asking the Guilty Feminist? Then we'll share them. Right. And the people who will watch this can find them and follow or donate. Donate if you can. If you can't donate, amplify. There are lots of people who are still on their full salary and now have no where to spend their money down the pub or at the gym or anything like that. So they may well give it and direct it. And is there anything you've been reading or watching that you think we should read or watch? And it could be important or escapist, feminist, or just something you've been enjoying.
I have not been able to read a book this whole time. I just have not had space to read a book. But one of my favourite books always is Let's Pretend This Never Happened by Jenny Lawson, which is a fantastic, funny memoir. her second book is called Furiously Happy, and it's about her struggle with mental illness, and it is so wonderful and funny. And she writes under the blog S on Twitter, and they are two of the most like gorgeous, honest, but really, really funny, just memoirs of living with mental illness, but also her passion for taxidermy. And yeah, they're just gorgeous.
Right. Amazing. Somebody saying Warriors of the Aboriginal Resistance is also a great group resource. And if you listen to this week's Guilty Feminist, we had the amazing Eugenia on, and she recommended places as well. So listen to the latest Guilty Feminist, and there's lots of recommended places where you can do a direct debit, which is, I think, to be honest, what any white Australian should do who has any kind of disposable income at all. Because it's always been Aboriginal land, and it always will be. So we need to respect that. And finally, you are out of lockdown now. You could do anything you want. If you felt able to do anything you wanted to do, because you weren't being super careful about COVID, post-vaccine world, what do you miss more than anything?
Oh, just being in a room full of people laughing together. You know, that feeling of being on stage and the audience coming with you, and then I would love to do another Guilty Feminist live show right now. Like, how glorious would that be? And other than that, just hugging the shit out of a whole lot of people that I love.
Maybe that's your t-shirt, hugging the shit out of a whole lot of people I really love. Somebody suggested Pay the Rent as well. Check them out. If anyone's got a better idea for a t-shirt than hugging the shit out of a whole lot of people I really love, then pop it below for Cal. And the t-shirts are available, and 100% of the profit of the t-shirt goes to the artist, in this case Cal Wilson, or if you're all right for money, you can redirect it to a comedian who's trying to pay the rent and can't. All the love, Cal. I think we're coming up to the hour and we're going to get cut off in a minute, but it has been such a wonderful time to see you. We've missed you so much. I've missed doing Guilty Feminist with you. And is there anything else you wanted to tell us about that you didn't get to tell us about?
Not really. That I was thinking the only way you can support me financially is buying my kids' books. If you want to do that, George and the Great Bum Stampede, George and the Great Brain Swappery. Very serious documentary books, obviously for children. Otherwise, follow me on Instagram, and we'll figure it. Oh, and watch me on Stan. We did this whole great lockdown comedy special where we had to film ourselves in our own homes, and it was terrifying and wonderful. But if you have the streaming platform Stan, you can watch that, the Australian Comedy Lockdown Festival. Otherwise, the Netflix special, which is a couple of years old now, and I feel weird talking about things that I've done.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You're an artist who can't work, so you're fine. You just tell us about your books and stuff and your Netflix special. If you've got Netflix, check out Cal Wilson's Netflix special. It's very lovely. If you've got kids or no kids, her books are brilliant too. So check those out. In the meantime, Cal, have a wonderful what's left of your weekend. Our weekend's only just started.
Yes.
I'm sorry, you've burnt through quite a lot of yours.
I have.
Recklessly.
Our cats, which is like quite an oversight now.
Oh, do you want to quickly show us your cats?
They're asleep on my husband. They won't be coming in.
But show us your husband.
Special Guilty Feminist cat show edition at some point.
We did do a crazy cat lady episode with Celia Piccola. She named that episode, and she wanted to talk about how she wanted a cat, but she had to get a boyfriend first, so people didn't say she was a lonely spinster with a cat, and she just thinks that that's an imposition. People don't project that on other pets. She said if a woman has 3 dogs, she sounds really fun. She's probably got a jet ski. What has 3 cats? Mad loner. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lots of love, salutes, kisses, hugs, high fives.
And I'll see you on the world.
I hope so.
Bye.
Bye.